Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. He's forgotten to turn the overlay off. Hello and welcome. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying the rest of your week. Nearly match day. It's nearly Friday. It's my Friday. It's my day off tomorrow, and then I've got the weekend off too. So it's Friday for me, but it's probably not Friday for most of you, of which I feel the greatest amount of, I was going to say sympathy, but to be honest, I just care that I've got a day off tomorrow. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. But we'll still be doing the show. We'll still be doing the one at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning as well. So make sure you do tune in for that. Apologies again if I do sound a little bit, stuffy and I need to keep grabbing a drink. Not 100% recovered. Neither are a number of our players, but we're going to be talking about that in just a second. But please do drop a like on today's video and subscribe to the Gooner Talk if you haven't done so already. Let's say good morning to people in the chat box. Kaiser taking that #1 spot in the chat again. Good morning to you, Matt G. Good morning, Stevie King. Tom Roman. Someone called me the other day Tomrizio, which was, it's original, is what it is. Morning, Umar. Good morning, Push. Push it to the limit. Love that. GGTV for you, Colin. Roland in the chat. Mr. Dazen. Rob, Karl, you said what's in the joining us in the chat box as well. Omar, so many of you. Kevin, Sofiso, Nick, Cam. I can't say hello to all of you. Thank you so much. Otherwise, I'll literally be here forever. Thank you so much, guys. I know I don't have to apologize, Rich, for being sick. I just feel like it's a courtesy to do so. It's just part and parcel of the job. Let's crack on, though, and tell you to obviously go and subscribe, as always, to the Arsenal Way. As I said, we're on our way now to 5,000 subs over there. So please do help us out by giving a click to the link in the description and hitting that subscribe button. But we kick off with the transfer news, and we're going to go into the team news at the end. We start with Mazraoui, who is the Moroccan international right back for Ajax. Currently, not so much. It's an interesting link because we were linked to this guy in the summer as a possible option at right back, but his injury record put a lot of people off. But he's done very well. I mean, he's a very good player and he offers a lot. He offers a lot of difference to Tomiyasu. He's a very different style fullback to Tomiyasu. You see a lot of comparisons with his compatriot Hakimi. At the same time, someone would be a lot more attacking than Tomiyasu currently is. He is someone that apparently the club are linking us to, or rather the media are linking Arsenal to once again. And as a backup to Tomiyasu, I don't think it would be too bad of an option for Arsenal. It depends on the fee. We know his contract situation would mean that his fee is going to be reasonable. We're not going to have to break the bank for this guy for a backup, which could prove to be a savvy bit of business. Whether or not he would want to come to Arsenal and play as a competitor to Tomiyasu is another thing. But Mazraoui is the latest right-back link that we've seen crop up in the news. Speaking of transfer news and right-backs possibly moving, Callum Chambers has been linked with a move to Everton for a figure in around the region of £5 million, considering the fact that we paid 16-odd million for the guy when he was very young, still a lot of potential. And now in his mid-20s, the max that we can muster is £5 million links. That kind of tells you where he's at along his kind of path of development and where his stature is amongst the fan base. Interestingly, the other night, England had 3 Arsenal representatives in the side. Now, the last time that Arsenal had 3 starters from their team in the England setup was all the way back in 2014 when England beat Slovenia 3-1. The starters that day were Kieran Gibbs, Danny Welbeck and Jack Wilshere. And on the bench was Theo Walcott, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Callum Chambers, to show how kind of far things have changed in that time. Former England international call-up is Callum Chambers, but that is quite a fall from the £60 million that we paid Southampton for. His contract situation will certainly affect things, and we know that he's only got a year or so left. I think we do have an option to extend, but because of that, I think Everton feel like they can jump in. They need a right back. Seamus Coleman is getting on a bit now, and they do need to replace that position. So Chambers does make quite a bit of sense for them, but surely we could ask for a little bit more money, and we'll find out if we can indeed get any more for Callum Chambers. Now, another player that could be leaving the club in January is Mohamed Elneny. The Egyptian international supposedly has an agreement with Turkish side Galatasaray. The player and the club have supposedly had this agreement for quite some time and are just waiting on the 2 clubs now, Arsenal and Galatasaray, to come to an agreement. Elneny is set to leave Arsenal in January for the African Cup of Nations to join up with Egypt, but could not return and remain away from the club on a permanent deal with Galatasaray. In terms of fees, nothing yet really coming through. He's got just 6 months left on his current deal, which kind of, it tells us that it's not going to be a lot of money, but any money for Elneny is good. But the thing is, if we lose him, I think we would have to look to bring someone in, at least in the short term. Otherwise, it would leave us very, very thin should we get more injuries. And with Xhaka out in the long term, Partey's fitness not being 100%, you can't really just have Lokonga and Maitland-Niles as your only options. So I think that we would have to try and move him on. I think, Nico, 10 million, you're living in dreamland to get 10 million for an Elneny with 6 months left on his deal. I think you're looking lower than £5 million, if that, for Elneny to move on. But we will wait and see, and we'll obviously be tracking this story as it develops. Now, Sadio Mane, as we move on to the team news ahead of Liverpool, was rumoured to be possibly injured and a bit of a doubt, but he, alongside Jordan Henderson and James Milner, and even some further members of the squad that we thought were doubts, did in fact train for Liverpool this week. Andrew Robertson, however, did not, and had a good chat with Josh Williams over on the Arsenal Way, who is the scouting writer for Reach and a big Liverpool fan. He feels that Tsimikas will start the game on Saturday and that we will have to worry about his deliveries in the evening. But I do imagine that not having Andrew Robertson is going to be a big plus for Arsenal, and it's certainly going to be damaging to them. But Mane being there, being back, people talk about him being out of form. He still scored, I think, 6 goals this season in the Premier League, which is obviously less than Salah, who I think has 10. But he's a threat. He's certainly going to be a big plus for them to have back. And yeah, not the best news in the world that he's returned to training, but there you go. It's very Arsenal to hear about players that were supposedly injured that no longer are. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang did train upon returning from international duty. He was stretchered off in Gabon's last fixture, but it was made out to be a lot worse than it actually was. He conducted and completed his first training session back since returning from Gabon. So really good news on that end, that he should be fit and available for the weekend, so we won't have to worry about him. And penultimately, Thomas Partey. He has been reportedly continued to be deemed as a bit of a doubt at this stage moving forward. In fact, just looking at Charles Watts, who did report the story, Thomas Partey, let's have a look at this. Aubameyang is back in training. We knew that. But Thomas Partey is still very much a doubt at this stage. But he could yet be involved in some shape or form on Saturday. Arsenal are hoping that he will indeed be available, but there are no promises at this stage. Charles says, still a doubt over Partey, but they are hopeful he will be able to feature. Kolasinac definitely out with the injury he picked up against Bosnia, but obviously probably wouldn't have been involved anyway. So there is hope that Partey will be available for the game on Saturday. However, what I would say is if he's a risk, I wouldn't risk him. This game is it's not a free hit, but it's certainly one that you would rather see Partey back with us for the next 3 fixtures than throw him back in this game when you're not 100% sure about him and lose him for the Christmas schedule. We want to make sure that we've got Partey for as many of these upcoming games as we can, because it's really important. And I wouldn't necessarily be throwing him in just to try and get him in the team on Saturday. But he is supposedly a doubt, but the club are hopeful that he will feature in some shape or form. Now, the last story of the day is, lo and behold, Nicolas Pepe back in the news. Reports surfacing from abroad that he has been interesting 3 Premier League clubs. Crystal Palace, Everton and Newcastle are said to be the interested parties in the Ivorian international. How much truth is there in these reports? Honestly, we have no idea. What I would say is that I think the floodgates were opened, is what I would say, because prior to about, 3 or 4 days ago, there was, or more than that, I think 5 or 6 days ago, there was no Pepe talk at all. No reports linking Pepe with anyone whatsoever. And after one opinion piece, everyone is now reporting about the possibility that Nicolas Pepe could go. I would definitely treat these transfer movers with a very, very big pinch of salt if I was you. I would doubt their validity right now, because it's just as Mitchell said, I think we opened Pandora's box with this one, completely unintentionally. But I would be very, very wary of any links involving Nicolas Pepe at this point in time. I certainly haven't heard anything about any interest. I haven't heard anything from any one of my colleagues about Pepe. And I haven't heard anything whatsoever. For India, I'm not leaking anything. All I've said is that I would take 25 million for the guy. And it's caused absolute chaos, is what it is. So, as I said before, please do take that news with a big pinch of salt. And if Newcastle, Everton, and Crystal Palace are genuinely interested in him and they want to buy him, I would say if you want to give us £25 million, I'm well up for that. That's how much I said I would take for him. That's what caused all of this chaos. But pinch of salt and a spoonful too. So there you go. That completes today's news stories. If you are sticking around for the Q&A session, then please do throw your questions into the chat box. I'm not going to stay on too much longer as always, because as I say, my throat is still not 100% recovered. And I'm going to be doing another show this morning at 9:30 over on the Arsenal Way, which you can obviously find the link to in the description. So let's go into the chat box now and get as many of your questions as we feasibly can answered as quickly as we can. Let's go to Alpha, who says, Tom, can't Pepe play in the 2 in a 4-4-2? He was operating as an inside forward in Lille and feel like we could get more goals from him in this position. Possibly. I think we discussed this a number of times. We talked about how we feel like we should play him closer to the striker, and not playing him closer to the striker has meant that he's very much isolated in the wide areas, and that leaves him very much susceptible to losing possession and having to take on more players than he's capable of. And so therefore, I think that would be a little bit of it would be beneficial, but I just don't see that happening for my money anyway. I just don't see Pepe being used in a different kind of position. Hello, says, hey, Tom. Was wondering if there's any news surrounding Calvin Phillips. No, and I'm not going to say that there is. I've heard he's out of favour in Leeds, and I see him as someone that could have a team built around him. No, I've heard absolutely nothing about possible links to Calvin Phillips. So if you're listening, writers of the Sun and the Mail, don't write anything about them because there's nothing. Drew says, in my opinion, Pepe would probably suit any club who just hit teams on the counter. Wouldn't be a bad move. I mean, we're not a counter-attacking team. We do it sometimes, and we have a fairly decent record at counter-attacking this season, but only when we go and take the lead from a dominant kind of possession-based performance. We're not a counter-attacking side by nature. Pepe is suited to a counter-attacking team by nature and would definitely suit Newcastle or Palace quite well, to be fair. Magambo says at least 40 million, no matter how bad he is, we bought for 70 million plus, and we should be getting 40 million max. Well, you're not going to get that. So you can keep hoping, but you ain't getting 40 million for Nicolas Pepe. NickB says, what formation do we play against Liverpool without Partey? I am tempted to go to the 3-4-3 and give those defenders an additional defender, give those midfielders, an additional centre half behind them to kind of help. But Brighton and West Ham both got results against Liverpool playing with the back four. Maybe we should continue to play with the back four and just go with Maitland-Niles, who was very good against Watford. But Liverpool is a completely different animal. So Lokonga and Maitland-Niles in the middle is going to be a big, big test of the team, no matter what happens. Inga says, is it possible that our medical team have overlooked something with Partey since he is very often injured? I don't know, is the honest answer. A lot of our medical team has actually changed since Partey arrived back in 2020. There have been changes to the setup there. I don't know what's happened. We find this with a lot of players that sign for Arsenal, that suddenly they start getting injured. But this season's injuries haven't been too bad. Like, if we think about the players that we've lost, Partey's been out for a couple of games at the start of the season and obviously missed the Watford match. Xhaka was dealt a horrible knee injury, which wasn't to do with the environment. It was all to do with the tackle on him during that game in the North London derby. So I wouldn't really be looking at that as something to be concerned about from a club perspective. But yeah, I don't think that there's too much to be concerned about injury-wise with Arsenal at present. I think things have certainly improved. But with Partey specifically, look, I think it's just bad luck. I think the Partey thing is just bad luck, unfortunately, which sucks because he's very, very important to the team. Social says, I heard Pepe is releasing a statement today to tell everyone that he's 100% an Arsenal player and the 25 transfer talk is not true. But with all this £25 million transfer talk, Arteta is now considering selling him. Social, I mean, if you've heard that, which I know you haven't, fair play to you, but it's a lot of rubbish. Vegatesh says, does Real Madrid have a buyback clause for Odegaard? Should we sell Pepe to 20 million and other clauses added to that? No, I don't believe Odegaard does have a buyback clause at all. I don't think Arsenal would allow a player to be signed that has a buyback clause personally. Pepe, look, 25 mil and he's yours. I don't care about buybacks. I don't care about sell-ons. I mean, let's be real. If we're looking to sell him at 26 years of age, a buyback would only come into effect when he's at least 28. So I don't think it's worth the hassle. 25 million is yours. It's as simple as that. Food for the soul. Considering Partey's doubt, what formation would you go for? I'd go. I think I still lean towards the what we've been playing of late. I'd stick with it. But the 3-4-3 does tempt me. That's what I would say. Aya says, it's been 3 seasons. Someone explained to me the worth of us keeping Pepe. He flips and tricks. His flicks and trips won't change his poor decision making, which is proven he's proved rather poor at time and time again. I don't have to argue with you because I agree. Like I just can't fathom why we would stick with Pepe and rather than investing more time in Saka, more time in Smith Rowe, because obviously they are the bigger talents. I mean, people like to put Saka into a bit of a box to do with his output in terms of his goals and his assists. But I'm sorry, Pepe's scored 15 goals in 67 Premier League appearances. That's not good enough for a player entering their prime. And people might turn around and say, oh, but he's played a lot of those games from the bench or he's come off the bench. I don't care. Like, take your opportunity when it comes. Like, everyone's very quick to say Rhys Nelson's not taking his chances. I'm one of them. And he hasn't. So we can't, not apply that same theory to Pepe. And a lot of Saka's performances have had to come from the left-hand side because Pepe is being, at times, forced into the team and Saka's then had to accommodate him on the left. And he's not a left winger, in my view, Saka. He's a right winger. If you're going to play Saka on the left, you play him in a wing-back role, and that gives him kind of that player ahead of him to combine with as he does for England so well. But as a left winger, he doesn't really work. And so play Saka on the right, give him that chance to develop. 20-year-old kid having more of an impact on the team, and you can look at the impact because Arsenal just perform better when Saka's on the right. It's not always looking at just raw goal and assist statistics. It's about how the team performs when a player is in and out of the side. And Arsenal play better with Saka at right than Pepe at right. And it's as simple as that for me. It's as simple as that. I don't need to go into any more detail. Douglas says, hi, Tom. If Elneny goes in January, should we sign Jack Wilshere? No, we should sign someone who actually is fit and has been playing football for the last however many months. I would not be signing Jack Wilshere. King says, if Partey is fit, would you play Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Sambi and Partey to match Liverpool's trio? No, because other teams have come away successfully without having to do that. So I wouldn't either. I would stick with what we've got and what's working with us so far. Much love, Lewis. Hope you're doing well, my friends. Karl says, enjoy your day off, Tom. Would you like me to send you a work rota so you can time some future days when I'm working? No, Karl. I will work as I please. Simple as that. But do make sure you take regular breaks, Karl. That's all I would say. Wilson, who would be the best replacement for Pepe? Not Kulusevski at all. I'm not sure about Noah Lang. I don't know enough about Noah Lang whatsoever. Who would be the best replacement for Pepe is a good question because off the top of my head, I can't give you a really good answer. I would have to think about it and I would have to do a little bit more research into it because off the top of my head, I can't give you an answer. I think, look, at the end of the day, it needs to be someone that's going to be realistic. It needs to be someone that's going to come in and he's going to compete with Saka. If we think about it, a lot of our goals come from the left-hand side in the central area. Saka on the right doesn't really give us the goals. It gives us more of kind of the key passes and the service to the team. And obviously taking on players a lot better than Pepe does. His dribbling and technical skill is a lot better than Pepe's. So when he's able to beat a man and cut inside and his decision-making is a lot more mature and better despite being 6 years younger, we need someone that's going to add something similar. Or you say we add someone who's going to be slightly different to that and is going to bring in a little bit more kind of edge to their game, can still beat their man, but has got, the ability to get into the box or to strike where Pepe's touch, someone who's got a good touch to start things. Because that's the thing that frustrates me most about Pepe is his first touch is just so heavy. And you can't have that level of touch in the Premier League. It's just far, far, far too risky. It really is. Yeah, I would say he has regressed, but it's in a way, it's not 100. It's not all Pepe's fault because he's in a league that just doesn't suit his style, and that you can't always just point the finger and go, "Oh, he's awful," because Pepe's not a bad player. He just doesn't suit the Premier League, and he doesn't suit Arsenal's style of play. He was definitely just kind of a signing that was made to kind of appease the fans when he missed out on Zaha, and it's just not worked. It's not worked whatsoever. So I think we need to move on from him, basically. It's as simple as that. Oh, there's lots of people suggesting players. Sterling, look, I like Sterling, but he's more of a left winger than a right winger. So I'm not sure that he would work necessarily on the right-hand side. I would sign him. I disagree. I was having a good chat on the press box the other day with Chris Wheatley and Kai Kainak, and they both wouldn't sign Sterling. And I disagreed with them. I would sign Sterling. I think he's a player for £50 million that you can't turn down. Chris reckoned you only would pay 20, not that you would pay, but he feels like he's worth 20 million quid, which I find that staggering. I think he's worth far, far, far more than that, as Kai agreed. But Kai wouldn't sign him, Chris wouldn't sign him, but I personally would. I'd go for him. I think he's a player that would add a lot of quality to this team. Leon, on a 6-month loan, I would have Ramsey back if it was him or no one. And that's the only kind of scenario that I would consider bringing Ramsey back. If Elneny's going, I think Ramsey on a 6-month loan would kind of it would work. I'd take that. But I think there are other options that are better. So there you go. Hello, maybe the best Pepe replacement is already at the club. What about Rhys Nelson? Look, Rhys is currently away of Feyenoord for the season. Whether or not he succeeds, we'll wait and see. He got an assist the other week, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that he's the right player. But he did extend his contract by a year. I think they've done that because they want to sell him at the end of his loan with Feyenoord, but we'll wait and see. Rafinha loses the ball a lot, but definitely fun player to watch. Again, it's that touch. And I'm just not sure that Rafinha is... I'm just not sure that he is good enough for us to say... I'm not sure how much changes, between leaving from Pepe and going to a player like Rafinha. Dylan, you're never going to get Chiesa, mate. I'm sorry to burst your bubble on that, but he's never coming. Oyarzabal is more of a left winger. I like Oyarzabal again. Really fantastic player. I feel like he'll end up at Man City one day, but he's more of a left winger than he is a right winger, unfortunately. I think we're going to wrap things up there. Sorry that I didn't get to all of your comments. So I need to rest my voice a little bit more. Hopefully, we'll be back to regular scheduled programming and have the half an hour or so shows back for you very soon. I will be back with you guys tomorrow morning. I'll be back on the Arsenal Way at 9:30 in an hour's time. And joining me this afternoon will be Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast, fingers crossed, to do one of our Let's Talk Arsenal fans series. If you want to check out our previous ones, I have a chat with Mo, Charles Watts, James Benge, Lee Judges, Kev Campbell. So for episode 6, I'll be joined by Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast this afternoon, 5 p.m. UK time. So make sure you tune in for that. Have a fantastic day, people. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new. And as always, up the Arsenal.